Hey everyone, and we are back. Yes, the 2.5 Salesman podcast is back. We took 1 year hiatus, and beginning 2025, we are at it again. This time it's me, Mario, your host. I have my new partner and a new host, Noam. Hey, Noam. Welcome to the podcast as a co-host. This is your first podcast, right?
It is, and it's very exciting. Thank you for having me.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah. And for our first guest, we have our good friend, our client, Frederic, CRO of Stay22. Frederic, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and stoked to be the first guest of the return of this very famous podcast, right? Or soon to be
Return,
extremely famous podcast.
Return
Ex-
of the Jedi. Yeah.
That's it.
exactly. Yes. So, uh, as always, when we have a guest, we do have a designated topic. So, topic for today's podcast is creating alignment through CRO's point of view, right? So, Frederic, let's maybe just begin a little bit. Give us a little bit of your background, and then your education. Where did you grow up, and then how did you kind of end up as a CRO in Stay22? And then we'll kind of try to dig
Sure.
dig deeper, a little bit deeper.
Sounds good. Well, Frederic Aouad, born and raised in Montreal, Canada. That's kind of where I'm at still, right? Son of an immigrant family of Lebanese descent. Um, and who am I? I mean, when people ask me to kind of define myself, I think husband and father of three is probably the most important thing that comes up. Um, I'm a huge fan of sport in general, doing sports, watching it less and less, less patience for that now. But doing sports, and I have a specific attraction towards combat sports. So lots
Oh,
of
Oh,
grappling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, judo has always been my jam. Becomes a bit more difficult as you get older, but I still try to keep that passion alive. And yeah, I mean, I am the CRO C22. I did not start. I mean, that wasn't a plan as per se to be a kind of go-to-market leader. I studied political science at university, which was
oh,
just
interesting.
really out of personal interest. I just really like the political aspect and policies aspect of it all, international geopolitical stuff. It's always been my jam. Um, and then really, I'm professionally, I'm a salesperson at heart, right? That's where I started. I landed kind of out of luck and people seeing potential in me, and I'm very grateful for you know older generations seeing potential in younger ones. I'm trying to do that as well now. But I started about my career in sales doing hotel sales, so hotel management sales for a brand called Starwood, that's been bought by Marriott's maybe
Oh,
now 10 years ago. So that kind of dates me a little bit. But I started in bricks and mortar hotel sales. Then I moved to go-to-market leadership of short-term rentals for a company called Corporate Stays. That was really short-term rentals, but really focused B2B. So not tech, right? People think Airbnb, which is really a tech company. This one was more of a bricks and mortar and operations company. And then at Stay22, I joined in late 2019, right?
yeah. Oh, well,
As
it's got to be more than 5 years, almost
It's been
six
more than
years.
5 years.
Oh,
It's
there we
been more
go.
than 5 years. And I wanted to try a tech, and I was also within the travel hospitality space. And then it's been a wild ride up and down through a pandemic and growth since then. And yeah, that's it. I'm in charge of the go-to-market leadership from all go-to-market functions, which we'll
Yeah,
talk about later.
yeah. We'll dive into that in a
yeah,
minute. Yeah.
yeah. I know. When you mentioned age and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Noam knows this. I got hooked on golf this last year, right? So, all right, I decided to buy a new set. And I haven't played, and I was been sick, and I haven't played for I don't know 2.5, 3 months. So I go to the shop, to take measurements and all of that. And the guy just says, just hit 10, 15, 20 balls, like nothing too big, just to, just to measure you. All right, I do that. Next morning, this here inflamed completely.
Got the elbow. Yeah.
It says, yes, you are that old. Just don't do sports of any kind.
Yeah. Now I could jab back and say, is golf really a sport? But then that would start on a whole other tangent.
No, you should try it, man. It just if you love spending a lot of money, just bottomless pits, that's the best sport for you.
I hear it. Yeah, it's tough.
Wow.
I tried a few times. It's very difficult. I'm terrible.
It is. It's super difficult. Yeah. All right. Let me ask you this. So we worked a little bit with you guys last year, and whenever Noam and I talked with you, you always seem to really know how to achieve alignment within all of your let's say revenue generating teams, right? So let's maybe begin. One of the questions that I always love exploring is, yes, alignment, but how do you balance short term? So we gotta hit Q1, we gotta hit Q2 with the long-term vision of what Stay22 wants to do.
That's a good question. Ideally, there's a natural alignment between both, right? And the short-term goals are stepping stones towards the long-term goal, right? That's very theoretical when I'm saying that, obviously, but it's the typical breakdown of very ambitious BHAG, big hairy a goal, right, into smaller ones, and those smaller ones are your short-term ones. But that's the ideal situation. Is that always the case? Probably not, right? Sometimes you want to do something that is not ideal long-term, but short-term we need to do it. But that's kind of the role of alignment and leadership, right? Is that these situations when there is a misalignment of a short-term goal that we know is not good long-term, that's kind of something as senior leadership you need to work on. This needs to happen as least as possible, right? And I think it's, for me, all alignment, really, I think of the phrase of Charlie Munger, right? Show me the incentive and I will show you the outcomes. I think alignment, at the end of the day, you can tell people to act X, Y, Z way, right? It needs, ideally, you want to have a distributed decision-making, meaning creating an incentive and a context and a sandbox where it will make sense for the director, manager, individual contributor, for his personal financial interest or his own personal growth as a professional, right? To take actions that are also in line with the company outcomes, right? That's what you should always be thinking about, right? And that said, there's always going to be blind spot. It's never going to be perfect, but always thinking towards how to align everybody towards the same goal, and that goal makes them also grow financially and professionally.
Noam, what do you?
Yeah, well, since I know you a bit, so it's but the purpose here is, that the viewers of this podcast will get to know you and get the sense of, knowing how you actually design it. Ideally speaking, it's supposed to be very easy, but even if we're taking Stay22, which, from an outside point of view, seems to be a straightforward business, right? You guys are approaching, your target audience, and then you do that. So everybody should be aligned, but as we now say, stepping out of the classroom and the theory into the real, raw world, how is it that you actually, I wouldn't say manage, but how do you actually inspire people to take the correct sets of actions that were, initially, let's say, to fit your design?
Okay. Well, I mean, let me go. Yeah, great point. You're right. Let's come down from the ivory tower of theory and go into the mud of reality.
Yeah.
I'll share the reality within Stay22, right? So for the viewers who are not listening, we monetize via CPA. So think affiliation. It's a revenue share model that we have with our clients, right?
Yeah.
So already their interests technically are aligned with ours. The more money we make, the more money they make.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the first one. Then how do we incentivize our teams? Let's start with sales, right? So I could incentivize them. The reaction, the natural reaction we had previously in the early years, incentivize them really on your target as a pure revenue target, right? But the reality is that in our business, the sales team acquires users via B2B partnerships by installing, for example, some of our solutions on a partner's website, client's website, and then X number of users from that client convert, and they bring us revenues. So how much the product converts drastically changes the monetary revenue outcome. So just putting incentive on the revenue could mean that suddenly product converts twice as better because of a new feature. Should every salesperson be paid two times more? Probably not true alignment of interest. And the other way around. If it suddenly start producing half less, well, probably not fair. But the outcome of revenues are important. So revenues are important. I'm not going to only judge you on user acquisition, right? Because at the end of the day, we want when the company wins, when the partner wins, the salesperson wins. So then we've created a sliding scale, meaning that you have a user acquisition target. Reach 100% of your target for, let's say, Q1, right? You get X number of commission of the revenue. Achieve 120, get X plus 2%, whatever it is, and so forth. Achieve 70%, get a lower percentage, right? So,
Well,
so that's how we try to structure it.
Okay.
What is interesting, what I really want to ask, and I'll get to my question shortly, is I've seen only a handful of companies that have aligned their commission structure or let's say compensation altogether in all of the revenue functions. So this,
Yes.
Marketing, sales, partnerships, client success.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And when you have that aligned, I think then we all go through to true north. Right? Because in the end, you monetize the value that you're providing, right? Whatever that value.
Exactly. But you're spot on. That was, this is where we need to go, is that example of sales is very classic. You've heard this, a sliding scale based on target achievement. I mean, I'm definitely not inventing the wheel here.
Yeah.
But you're not that I'm inventing the wheel anywhere, but just you're right. Like, it's less common to see marketing being also incentivized with commissions on either the deals they bring in or the deals they help shorten sales cycle. All right. So again, they are incentivized, maybe a different percentage, maybe a different proportion of their overall compensation is linked to variable performance than it is for sales for all the obvious reasons. But a big part is meaning that our marketing team will not, the typical situation, we brought you all these amazing leads, this great campaign, the event. How come sales is not converting? I did my job. I need to be paid on the MQLs, right? And perhaps there are amazing MQLs and they are right to criticize. But I don't want anybody to celebrate until we actually score the goal or close a deal, right? So that's how I created a relation. Well, now, obviously, you want to bring quality leads, but you also want sales to actually action them quickly and close them. And if they're not closing them and actioning them, you cannot say, oh, my job is done. You're like, damn it, I'm not getting the maximum return for myself. So that it makes them concerned and incentivized to find a solution. Maybe our leads are not good. How can I help the sales team to close more? That sort of thing. And that's a common joint outcome, which not only makes marketing, as an example, makes marketing now suddenly they really want to help the team close deals. It's the sales team close deals. And it's going to make the marketing team hold sales accountable. It's like, how come you're not actioning all my leads, right? You're not doing it fast enough, or how come you're not closing more than, I'm inventing a number, it's very high with us, but I was like, only 2% of the deals are being closed. Well, it's going to force an uncomfortable, perhaps, but necessary conversation as to why those deals aren't moving. And by this conflict that's created by the joint objective of closing a deal, that friction should bring us closer to the truth as to why they're really not closing, and ideally address that truth.
One of the things I know that, I'm all in favor of, ensuring that commission, let me say that, people come to work to achieve, or to, let's say, live up to the expectations of with many standards. One of which, as we say, money wise, which means compensation. We all work for money. Money's, IV, money drives the world. Money makes the world turn, round. It's all good. However, some people, and again, this is me speaking out of my experience, especially working for the giants, the multinationals, the Fortune 500s. It's all about the money there, right? It's, if they're smart enough, as you manage to do, align the entire revenue, generating teams towards, as Mario said, the, direction north, it's all good. But that's not enough, right? That's not enough. Telling people, if you'll do the right things, then you're going to make your money, and everybody's going to make more money. So, but some people, and as we know, and it's a normal distribution, some people simply have no idea what is the right thing to do. So compensation wise, it's the most smart thing to do, as you say, as you already, perform now. How do you cover the other area, which is not the commission, but the path? What's the structure, the communication structure that you put into place? What are the, let's say, routines you encourage people to do? How do you?
And what if you could dive a little bit in, is everything Noam asked, but in context of sales and marketing and sales, client success, or marketing partnerships, right? So because that's what CRO does, right? You are the systems builder, right? And you have to ensure the system performs correctly and as intended, because at the end of that system is an outcome. So if you're getting a shitty outcome, something in the process is not doing its work correctly, right?
Great question, guys. I think, first of all, you're right. The role is to create kind of a sandbox that will reward financially the good outcomes. But that does not mean that everybody instinctively will know how to achieve those good outcomes and the path or the processes to go about, right? My first instincts to build what's the best way to achieve efficiency between marketing and sales, right? Is always to look at what's happening now, look at the data, see what's working, what's not working. And then obviously, let's not jump into, is it causality or correlation, but it doesn't really matter. Like, in the sense that, like, if there is, sorry, let me read. I was going to go into that trap. Let's not go into that trap. Ideally, just looking at what's going on. Okay, so let's say the leads, we're driving tons of MQLs, but those MQLs are not closing. Unless one campaign we did about this webinar series, they're converting at a very high rate, right? Often it's just about both parties, because of their common interest, ensuring that there is a platform for them to meet and look at this data, right? And just like kind of in a way like you would do with kids, to say, let's make sure they meet and like on a subject and see what happens. Most of the time, unless you have very problematic individuals or a bad culture, they will look and come to the conclusion because they should be experts in their field that surpass your own expertise, right? So they could be like simply, hey, we're just not looking the right type of deals. We're not the ICP we're targeting in that webinar was great. So that's how do we get more of that? So double down on what works and look at if that conversion rate or success continue? Does it diminish? And then try another variable and reiterate, right? Of course, that's like, look at the data, look at what works, double down, and cut what doesn't work, and see if that trend continues.
Yeah.
Then there's a bunch of other best practices, but I think the trap in all of this, I find, is whether it be relation to marketing, to sales, or commissions, that sort of thing, is the point of performance compensations plans is to motivate people to do the things that you want them to do.
Correct.
And sometimes we just tend to terribly overcomplexify this, right? In a sense that, marketing should not, I'll give an example. With marketing and sales, or marketing and customer service, the classic attribution. Who really brought in this deal? Oh, but I emailed this person 18 months ago. I did a sequence of 2 emails. He replied to 1 email and ghosted. Sales, it's my deal. And then marketing will say, hey, wait, like he's been on a mailing list, and we saw on his website he came 4.5 weeks ago and half completed a form, so it's thanks to me, right? And these things don't matter. Like, at the end of the day, who cares? Who cares? You should be, if they interacted with a marketing asset and sales brought them in, they should both get attribution. Just math it out so it makes sense from a cost of acquisition. Because if not, it's like zero sum. That's the worst way. You're going to disalign if you do zero sum.
Yeah, I think you made a phenomenal point here with these 2 examples. So in systems building, especially when Noam and I work with CROs and sales executives, at least for me and Noam, you can of course comment, but I always try to teach them, okay, there are these things called feedback loops in every system. There are a lot of them, but the 2 more, let's say, simple ones are reinforcement and the negative ones. So the reinforcement feedback loop is, I am going to introduce something in a process that will reinforce the behaviors I want to see, the strategies and tactics I want to see. And then you have the negative feedback loops, which is, I've, as a CRO, designed a system in this way, but because of my design flaw, I am getting behaviors that I don't want to get.
So how do I penalize those?
Or how do I create a different system so to have a different type of a behavior, right? Noam, what do you think?
From my point of view, it all comes down to physics, right? When we're designing a system, imagine that this is not a people system. Imagine that this is a material, engine, combustion, whatever system. So the loops that you're talking about, is the energy. I know it sounds a bit holistic, but think about it for a second. Is the energy that we've created is a negative one, which means in engines, it's overheated, right? It then slows the entire mechanism down. It creates a lot of distractions. And then from this point of view, you as the CRO must, barge in and kind of cool down the entire overheated system, or this energy is converting into motion. So basically speaking, from the point of view I'm looking at, is you could design the best system on the planet, and then you bring the wrong people,
Oh yeah,
to fill in the seats, and then you might get a negative energy flowing, and then you might think your system is wrong. But at this point of time, someone is, I wouldn't say misbehaving, but misunderstanding or misinterpreting or misactioning on the system. And again, I'm not saying people are either good or bad. I'm saying people are either a good fit or a bad fit for the system you design.
Oh yeah.
So I think
that's a great point.
On top of this, it's something like we can say, oh man, how do you handle this complexity?
Fred, I know you mentioned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Let's take a sports metaphor just a little bit, like team sports, right? And I'm a huge fan of American football. And one of my point of views that I like to watch is, like, the head coach is the CRO. His job is to ensure everyone is aligned. So the players are the salespeople, you have coaches, you have support staff, trainers, cooks, janitors, everyone, right? And you see this time and time and again. There's like a rookie quarterback. I hope our audience knows a little bit about what the quarterback position is in American sports. So you have a rookie quarterback and he sucks. Like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Then they release him.
They
He
kick him
signs
out,
for
yeah.
another team. And behold, year 6, 7, he finds a coordinator, he finds a team where he thrives. But he didn't, okay, he got better, fine. But in the essence of who this person is didn't change. It was the system that was built around him to make him thrive and to make him be a lot better than he is.
That is a good metaphor, Mario, because in American football, a lot of team sports, they're going to see this best practice, but really teams win very different ways.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is the same thing but they all come through alignment. Right. But the tactics they use, are very different. You could have a pass heavy team, or running heavy team, or a very defensive type of oriented team. And you're right. And it's the role of the CRO to understand the talent he or she has, the functions needed to win that game, because obviously, let's put it this way, I think every company and every industry is kind of a bit of a different game. Do I need to have an amazing kick butt marketing machine, or I'm going to be very sales led with a kind of marketing touch on it, right? Or am I going to have a very short sales cycle or a very long one? Is partner success going to be just something that we have on the side because we assume the product will just maintain itself, or we need to have partner success being a true value realization that even drives upsell? And what you need to succeed, right, will depend on the field that you have, the industry that you kind of work in, right, and the team that you currently have. Because unless you're starting your team from scratch, you're probably coming into an existing skill set and talent set, right? And of course, with time, you want to tweak that and change that. But yeah, as you said, if your quarterback isn't there and he has no proper front line in front of him, and you want to be a pass heavy, well, I mean, your strategy might be amazing. It's just not fitted to the proper field and team that you have.
And you become predictable, and that's never good.
That is correct.
Okay, so we are getting close to the end of the podcast. I do have one more topic that I would like all three of us to visit, and that I think so just a little bit background. Fred and I met via Pavilion. Pavilion has a CRO school, right? So where you can we can debate whether it's good or bad or whatever. But one thing that's missing, and I see this all the time, is the feedback loop between sales or client success or marketing, whoever, and product.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah.
Did I hit a nerve?
Extremely, yeah. But that's probably the most important feedback loop, right? We're used to sales, marketing, and account management, customer success, and sales, which are all crucial. But let's be real. At the end of the day, unless you're selling a service, like you're an agency type of thing, you're selling a product, right? And that's the most important variable in your long-term success. And in tech especially, that product is changeable, right? Like it should adapt. And it should adapt to the market. And not only to the market, it could be ahead of the market. It's usually how great success happens. It's not exactly what the market wanted. It's what the market needed, but didn't know they want. This is usually when the biggest explosion happens.
Yeah.
Hard to do, to be clear. But I think this is so crucial, and it's difficult to achieve that properly because of, I think, the ethos sorry for the fancy Greek word, of, I'm generalizing, product and engineering, which often go hand in hand, not always.
Yeah, yeah.
And go to market. One of them will be very commercially driven, right, about making sales and being the advocate of the market. And then you'll have product, and rightfully so, it should be, which is much more internal looking, right? Not exclusively, but internal looking and not commercially driven, and sometimes don't really understand what's going on in the market, or don't want to hear the product feedback, or the other way around. The commercial team simply feels that no, this is not a good feature, without even going to market to really make that assumption.
Yeah, and then sometimes what I see, and Noam, you can tell with your experience, is I see marketing would give it to a junior person and say, hey, talk to these 10 customers, see what they want, report back to product, and then product would. I mean, I am oversimplifying, and I'm sure a lot of companies have a little bit more serious processes in place. But there's a severe, I would say, lacking of communication between client success and product, marketing and product, and sales and product. And then how many heads of product do you know that are on a first name basis with either head of IT or head of product with their own 10, 15, 20 largest customers? On a first name basis.
You're right. No, there it is. Very rare. Very rare, even though that would make a lot of sense. Just to interject, like in there, I find go back to the CRO Pavilion School. I think I'm a proponent of, let's go to market as fast as we can. Doesn't mean to do everything grandiose, but like, let's go for a closed beta as fast as we can, even if it's a prototype or a new feature, because at the end of the day, right, we want to, it's the biggest indicator of product market fit is not how much you're selling it, because you can have an amazing sales team, a grandiose marketing plan. It's the churn rate. So because like you can shove down products off people's throats, right? Cool. We've seen that happen many times. Will they, sorry for the lingo, will they vomit it out after? It's really a true question. If it sticks, you're like, well, there's something there, right?
You don't have to apologize, man. This is a very free-flowing conversation. Noam is on his second beer, so we are okay, man.
But there's one side of it which says, sometimes or many times product people don't really understand, how client works. But let me now be the devil's advocate, or maybe
I think that's
let me represent some other side of this brutal reality. Many times, and I'll refer to what Mario said, the marketing team, or the, let's say, customer success team, the team that takes the ownership, okay, of finding out, our customers are properly using our product, so let's minimize churn levels or churn percent, right?
Yep.
I've discovered, and this is me saying, I've discovered many cases that salespeople simply don't know deep enough from a holistic point of view what the product actually solves. So, and I think this is a big pitfall when it comes to technology companies, right? And this is, and I know we're toward the end of this, so I'll keep it short, but a lot of salespeople, when it comes to describe how it actually works, so they're referring to the sales engineers or system engineers or pre-sale people, let's call it the product people, that can actually make the fit between the business need or goal and the feature function. And then when it's left in the hands, I would say, of marketing, sales, customer success people, which are not able at this point to make the link, they're not able to defend the sale. And then Frederic, what happens exactly? The customer is actually vomiting, okay, the product that was shoved, even though it's a good product, even though it's a good fit, even though the product manager or the product person is actually the best.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. And I think another mistake I've seen that we do as go-to-market leaders is that we shove a product, could be a great one, down the wrong throats.
Yeah.
Is that like awesome, but like you're feeding, ice to Inuits type of thing. You should have said like, okay, because this is our current network, our current customer base. We have relationships. So as a sales and go-to-market function, what will bring me to my achieved target of quota will be X. So come they shove it down because it's already trust built, relationships built, credibility of the brand, new product, boom. Yeah, but wrong ICP.
Yeah.
Wrong ICP.
Yeah. All right. So since we are at the end, Fred, I will keep the tradition that Julie and I had, and that is 30 seconds plug, whatever you want to plug. Whatever you want to, if you guys are hiring, if you want to pitch something, last 30 seconds, and then we will sign off.
Great question. I don't have a plug planned. I mean, we're definitely hiring. We're Stay22. We'll talk about it. We're where AI meets affiliation. So basically helping you monetize your content via AI better and faster than you would. Check us out.
Who are you guys hiring currently? What are
Man,
the,
we're
what are
hiring on the engineering, on the product side, on the marketing side, on the sales side. So
You're
there
growing.
we
You got-
go.
choose your business
Bam.
function.
Yeah,
Choose
you
your
guys are
business
growing. Yeah.
functions. We're doing good. Hopefully it continues. Big shout out to my team. If we're doing good, if they ever hear this, it's because of them, right? Thank you for everything you do at Stay22. I'm extremely grateful. And check me out on LinkedIn. If you suffered 40 minutes of me talking, you want to hear some more, if you hate yourself like that, check me out on LinkedIn.
If anyone wants to maybe apply or interested, I will write it on LinkedIn. I will tag you in the post, and they can, they
Awesome.
can reach out to you on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you everyone for listening. If you ended up so far, we are like 40 minutes deep into this phenomenal conversation. Fred, thank you so much for being our first guest. This was really phenomenal. Noam, your first impressions as a host?
Well, first of all, it's for me it's a quite of an easy, I love this landing pad. It's Fred here, so I feel at home. It's thanks for being my first, okay, because that makes this experience much better. Thanks you for that.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching, and please like and subscribe. We have all of the links. We post on Spotify, on YouTube, on every possible channel, and make sure to check out Fred, connect with Fred, and inquire regarding the open positions. Thank you everyone. We are signing off. Ciao.